Hey, First Church, I hope that you are having a great week. I personally am doing well, but I'll be honest with you, this past week has been harder than a lot. As so many of you know, we've been listening to incidents around our country and even right here in our own community of acts of violence resulting in the loss of life. And when you hear that enough times and when we experience that enough times, it really can shake us. It can make us wonder what exactly is going on. It can even make us wonder, what can we do? And as I've been reflecting on that, it leaves me feeling weak. It makes me say, God, what can I do? What difference can I make? And yet, as God often does, God has a way of sharing and just laying the right things on our heart at the right time. And I wanted to share one of those words with you. Recently, some of the words that God has brought to mind for me are found in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. And it says there, very simply, but I think very powerfully, God's grace is sufficient for us, no matter what we're going through. And then it says, even in our weakness, God's power is made great. And that's given me a lot of comfort here these last few days, because I've been feeling weak and I've been wondering, what can I do? And yet it's very often in those times and places that God can be so glorified. It reminds me of Jesus himself. Jesus offered the world a different way, a way that the world couldn't understand, a way that the world thought would just be wiped away. Jesus said, love your neighbor. Jesus said, serve others. Jesus offered beauty and truth and grace and glory in ways the world had never seen. And the world thought that when it killed Jesus, that those ways would be wiped away. When in reality, the empires that killed Jesus have long since been wiped out themselves. But the ways of Christ and Christ himself remain. Here we are all these years later as Jesus followers, continuing to live into his beauty, his grace, and his truth. And so that reminds me that in my weakness, as God's grace is sufficient and God's power is made manifest, that one of the things I can do is continue to glorify Christ in all ways, that I can continue to the best of my ability to love my neighbors with concrete actions. And I was reminded last week, almost ironically, that as some acts of violence were going on in our world, at the very same time, here in Williamsport, you, First Church, were loving and serving your neighbors through Transform. So simultaneously, acts of violence and acts of grace and beauty and service. And what will remain are the acts of beauty and service to our neighbors. That's what will have a lasting impact. And so, First Church, let us pray for those who have lost loved ones, but let us also continue to serve and offer love and grace and beauty. Let us offer reminders of God's goodness and God's grace. And as we do that, even in our own weakness, God will provide a way. God will make a difference. God's love will be known and shared. So First Church, love being with you all, love serving with you. This weekend, we are getting ready to start a new sermon series. I can't wait to jump into it with you. I hope you'll be in worship with us to experience what God has in store for us next. So blessings to you this week, prayers, and may God's words of life give us strength and hope in this time. Take care.